What an excellent day for an exorcism.
Welcome to Just Another Horror Podcast.
I'm John. Fuck capitalism!
I'm Lindsay, trying to write horror novels because I was a weird kid.
The whole world is a urinal.
Fuck the prime time, bitch!
Not my terrible fucking dating decisions. Hello?
Terrible.
Ho ho ho, Merry Christmas.
Jingle bells.
Yeah. Anything to add, Lindsay?
Happy holidays.
There's nothing happy going on here. This is America. And I'm John, and this is Just Another Horror Podcast. And you are?
I'm Em.
And what is this?
Just Another Horror Podcast?
Yeah. And
I'm Lindsay.
And what is this?
Just another horror podcast.
Best intro ever that we've done so far.
That was horrible.
It was.
Yeah.
It was almost improvised because it was completely improvised. Are we gonna die down here? We are recording Black Christmas from 1974 because it's Christmas, and we just stuck this in the middle of our picks. Have either of you seen this?
I hadn't.
Nope.
Do you guys have a favorite? Lindsay, do you have a favorite Christmas horror movie?
You know, I really don't. I'm like trying to think of like Christmas horror movies I've even seen. I'm like, I can't really think of any.
Do I have a favorite Christmas movie? Why, yes, I do. It's a Wonderful Life. That's my favorite
one.
Christmas movie.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I don't believe I tried to watch Krampus one time, and it was
That movie's
horrible.
Fucking awful.
And
Yeah, I watched the preview for that before, and I just didn't. It didn't grab me, so I didn't bother watching it. I know a lot of people love it.
How many Krampuses are there?
I don't
Because there is
know.
a lot.
I'm not sure.
When that came out, like, all these cheap horror companies were like, oh, that's right, there's a monster associated with Christmas, and they just, tons and tons of them all came out.
I would like to see Silent Night, Deadly Night, but I haven't. Maybe before Christmas I'll get time to watch it.
Watch part 2.
You like that one better?
Plus, it has most of part 1 in it.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. But I don't know, I kind of want to start with the first one and then watch the second one.
Did we watch anything this week, Em?
Besides these movies?
You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, that was 2 weeks ago.
But you said to bring it up.
Shit. Slapshot.
What is that?
It's a hockey movie about
Okay, try to explain what it's about.
about hockey players. Wait. Okay, can you explain, please, what's happening?
Oh my goodness. So we're in the middle of watching this movie, and we're both high. But she just all of a sudden looks at me and she's like, what is going on? And I realized that it was a little bit more complicated than hockey players, I guess. Because everyone in the town is sleeping with everyone. And they're all jealous of each other. But they keep sleeping with more people. And also the team is going to fold. A steel mill is shutting down. Somebody owns the team. Nobody knows who it is. Random kids come in from Canada and yell a lot but don't really play for much of the movie. So
Paul Newman's doing stuff that I didn't
Paul
understand.
Newman is just running from place to place telling lies to everybody. And they're all like, oh, cool, yeah, all right. And yeah, I guess it is a lot more complicated than I thought.
Is it really, though?
No.
I could not wrap my head around it. I could not wrap my head around the movie Slapshot. I just kept looking
Like,
at
do you
him.
have to understand hockey or anything?
No,
Or does it have anything to
you
do
have
with...
to not be high.
Okay, yeah.
It was just like I kept looking at him and being like, wait, I thought he was going, where did he come, okay, can you explain to me what's going on? And then you would try to explain it, and I would like lose you halfway through the explanation and just be like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's happening. And then at some point, it hit me that I could not understand this 80s hockey comedy movie, and I couldn't stop laughing, and I was like, you have to make fun of me for not being able to understand the movie Slapshot.
Well, I had never even heard of that movie.
I mean, check it out.
I mean, I don't know if it's my kind of thing.
I know it's not mine, but I think I would at least be able to understand it.
Yeah, if you're not.
So if any fans,
maybe.
if they like Slapshot and they want to give us a synopsis.
I only brought it up to her because it had the guy from Twin Peaks.
Oh, okay.
Sheriff Truman is one of the hockey players. So I was like, maybe
And
she
he does
would...
a striptease at the end.
Yeah,
so
he
that's
does.
Great.
The hockey in this movie, there isn't a lot of it, even though they're supposed to be playing hockey. It's mostly people fighting each other, a lot of fighting, and then a striptease, and then the movie's over.
Mm-hmm.
That's really all there is to Slapshot. Yep. Anyway, Black Christmas, Lindsay, if you want to read this.
During their Christmas break, a group of sorority girls are stalked by a stranger.
That's it. It's a basic slasher setup here.
Okay.
I do think that they do a better job in this slasher of developing characters than any other slasher I've seen, honestly.
And plus, I mean, this was before slashers really became a big thing.
Mm-hmm. The only one before this I can think of would be Psycho.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, and Psycho wasn't even really a slasher.
Yeah, it's different.
So this has been credited with starting a lot of the things like first-person views.
Yeah.
So John Carpenter talked to the guy who made this, Bob Clark, who made
A Christmas
Christmas
Story.
and was like, "What would you do for a sequel to this?" And he's like, "I wouldn't make one." And he's like, "But if you did make one, what would it be?" And he's like, "Well, they would put the killer away in an asylum, and he would stay there for a few years, and he would escape on Halloween and come back to the town he terrorized."
Wow. So he got his whole idea from him then. Did he
Really?
get credit for it?
No.
Like, did he get mad?
No, I don't think he did. I mean, he didn't want to make that movie, so...
Yeah, but he just gave the idea away for free then.
Yeah.
Huh.
And then...
And it was way more successful than this.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, there's been 2 remakes of this. The first one explains everything to the point where it's like, you don't really need to do that. Like, that's not necessary. But in the old one that I sent you, I was babbling on and on about how Agnes was the mom.
The old review.
Yeah, the old review. I did a review on this. Don't look for it. It's fucking atrocious. And
Go look
bad.
for it.
It's terrible. But I thought Agnes was the mom, but, like, it's clearly his sister. So the killer's name is
how'd
Billy.
You figure that? I never figured out who Agnes was.
It took me a long time, like, pausing the closed captioning and reading it to figure out who was who, because he was making all these different voices.
Yeah.
He's Billy.
Was his name really Billy, or was that...
I think so.
Okay.
He's Billy. He also voices Agnes, his mom, and his dad. I think he was sexually abusing Agnes, then killed her, then killed his mom, and I don't know if he killed his dad. So that's my guess as to who he is.
Yeah.
Like-
Well, and that's the end of Black Christmas.
Thank you. I mean, that's really the least important part of this movie. I know that, like, from watching so many slashers, people might be conditioned to watch this and be like, who's the killer? But that's not really important. They try to make it important. They try to make it all about Peter, but maybe we should start from the beginning, huh?
It's hard not to wonder, though, who the killer is.
Uh-huh.
I mean, when you're watching a movie like this, do you really just not even think, I wonder who the killer is? You just
I
think
thought it was
doesn't
Peter
matter?
until Peter was dead, and I've seen this
Yeah.
before, and I was still like, wait, did I forget who the killer is?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely make it seem like it's Peter.
It's all a red herring.
Yep.
The whole movie's a fucking red herring, I guess. Like, I don't understand why they wanted to push Peter like that.
Probably because it gives it a little bit of a twist in a way, like, because then you're, like, thinking the whole time, okay, it's gotta be Peter, and then they surprise you, and you realize it's not. So that
Have
kind of
either
makes
of you
it...
two seen 2001: A Space Odyssey?
No.
He's the guy from... There's a scene... I'm sure you've heard of the scene.
Yeah.
Where he's outside and it's like, let me in, I can't do that, Dave. He's Dave. He's the guy from 2001: A Space
Okay.
Odyssey. What is his...
Isn't there a big baby in that?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Space Baby.
Space babies.
Maybe that movie doesn't make a lot of sense. Sometimes... I know I talked about this in the Shining episode. I don't think Kubrick knew what he was doing, but people would watch his nonsense and be like, what a genius! And try to guess what he was saying, and he didn't even know what the fuck he was saying. I don't
So
know.
do you want to talk about Black Christmas?
No. I can talk for 45 minutes about anything other than this movie.
About like 5 other movies so far.
I mean, still not with Black Christmas, but now I'm curious, do you think that with all Kubrick movies, or just that one?
I think Full Metal Jacket's pretty self-explanatory. It's not hard to figure out, but every other one that I've seen has been like, all this mystery that they put in it doesn't seem to have a purpose. It just seems to be like weird or maybe bad filmmaking.
Even The Shining?
Does he know what's going on?
I don't know.
Is there, if somebody were to be like, why is Jack in the picture from 1922? Would he be like, well, here's the definitive reason why Jack is in the picture from 1922.
I
Are you
haven't
saying
heard of an
that
interview
should
about
be?
it.
Does he have a reason why he's there?
Does he need to have a reason? David Lynch fan?
David Lynch has reasons. It's all dreams
never
that he had.
explained,
No,
though.
he won't.
It's never explained.
No, I just feel like David Lynch is dreaming up shit, or other people are dreaming up shit, and he's like just trying to interpret it, and that's why Mark Frost is so important. Otherwise, it would be absolutely batshit crazy, which it already is.
Right.
But Kubrick, either he knows why Jack's in that picture, or he's just there for no reason. And I lean towards he doesn't know.
Okay.
So the movie opens up with a guy climbing a lattice to sneak into an attic. And Margot Kidder, not Margot Kidder, she's drunk and on the phone with her mom. And she's like a heavy alcoholic in this movie, but she's so fucking funny.
I don't know that she's an
Yeah,
alcoholic.
because we only see her for like a couple of days.
We see her for one night, and she really starts drinking heavily after she talks to her mom.
Yeah.
And finds out she's not going to see her mom for Christmas, basically.
So that doesn't really give us enough to know if she is an alcoholic.
I thought
she called her mom a gold-plated whore. It's amazing.
There were some funny things in this.
I thought that her mom was accusing her of drinking when she first had the conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe.
I think she was, because then she said something about, like, I've only had, like, 1 or 2 drinks or something. I forget what she said.
But then after she got the phone, she really dove into the bottle.
Yeah, I mean, you could be right. Maybe she is an alcoholic and her mom was concerned. I don't know.
Either way, it's not a huge thing in this, except that it's the reason that she ends up in bed alone when the killer's there. She's my favorite character in this movie. I like John Saxon a lot too. So, have you seen John Saxon in anything else?
I know I've seen him from something, and I looked on Wikipedia to see.
He's from your first ever horror movie. You said you saw a horror movie at your friend's house, and you never wanted to watch one again.
Nightmare on Elm Street?
He's the dad.
Ugh.
He's a cop.
All right.
Nice.
I would have never remembered that, though. Barb is Lois Lane, though. So
That's true.
Yeah.
Margot.
She was also in Amityville Horror. Olivia Hussey.
Yeah, what's her name in the movie?
Jess.
Jess. I know her from Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah. I think that's all I've seen.
It.
I might have
She's
seen
in
her
the
something.
TV
Oh, yeah,
version
she's
of
in
It. And the house mom, Mrs.
She's amazing.
Mac.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mrs. Mac.
I love
She
her.
was funny.
She's great. Yeah.
Based on her character, I want to know where you can buy hollowed out books.
Right, yeah.
To keep shit in.
Beat
Can
for
you
booze.
buy them?
She has dentures in her medicine cabinet, right? But she's up there brushing her teeth and rinsing them out with alcohol that she got out of the toilet.
Amazing.
Crazy, but
Life fucking goals.
And I love how she just puts on this, like, fake persona, like, dealing
Yeah.
with certain people, like with the father of Claire.
She's
And
good
then-
at it.
She really is. She can sing like the sweetest little old lady, and
Okay, so Claire is a character who is in this movie for 10 minutes.
yeah.
She doesn't like this phone call that they've been getting from the guy
The
in the
moaner.
house.
They call him the moaner.
I'm wondering if he's called them before.
It sounded
Or-
like it because when
'cause
they got that first call, it
It's
seemed
him
like they'd
again.
been getting.
Yeah. So has he been crawling in the house a lot, or is this the first time he's actually gone inside?
They never really explain that. It's hard to say.
My guess is that he's been harassing them for a while and then finally found his way in.
I
That's my
did find
guess.
it really funny in that first conversation when the one person was like, could it be just one person? And then the other girl was like, no, it's the Mormon Tabernacle Choir doing their annual obscene phone call. That was hilarious.
This movie's got a ton of humor in it.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
awesome. Claire gets freaked out by this and decides she's going to go upstairs and she's going to leave anyway, but
Well, they're all, except for Barb.
Barb gives it back.
You fucking creep!
Well,
Yeah.
The rest of them are scared, yeah.
Well, except for Barb. I think Barb was the only one that was planning on staying. They were all leaving for Christmas break.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was
And
like,
Barb
they were
didn't-
leaving the next day. They were having a party and they were all leaving the next day.
Yeah. And she didn't tell them that he said, I'm going to kill you at the end of the
Oh,
conversation.
that's true. She just hung up.
She didn't act like she was all that concerned about it, but if they would have known, I'm sure they would have freaked out more.
Right.
So Claire goes upstairs, hears a noise. It's a cat, right?
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I watched this being convinced that the cat was the killer. 'Cause the cat was everywhere that they were being murdered.
Claude.
But she gets attacked and suffocated with some plastic wrap. and is left in a rocking chair for the whole movie because they never check the attic.
Yep.
I was confused about that because I thought she was suffocated and left in her room.
Oh.
I didn't realize.
How did
Did
he
she
get her
go up to
there?
the attic or did he take her up?
He took her up, which at first I was like, how did he get her up there? But then later you see that pulley system.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that he used that.
Oh, okay. Because I'm like, the whole time I was like, why don't they just go in and look in her room? They'll see her right there. Why don't they just open her door? They'll see her. But then at one point, I think her dad is in her room and she's not in there. So
There's so many times in this when I'm like, someone check the attic. Anybody check the attic. Like, it's just crazy to me that they're right in this. The cops are right like 10 feet from the killer and they don't know it. It's nuts. So because Claire doesn't show up where her dad was supposed to pick her up, her dad comes to the fraternity and is talking to Mrs. Mack, who's like trying to cover up nude pictures of stuff.
Oh my god, all of the posters in the house were amazing. He got all indignant. Was like, I didn't send my daughter here to be drinking and picking up boys.
Yeah.
What the fuck do you think college is?
Grow up, Dad.
Yeah, really. Like, what do you think? Like, you send your daughter to college. What do you think happens at college?
Right, it's 1974 too.
Yeah.
My dad talks about all of their frat parties in the freaking 60s, early 60s.
Right, it's not like this is just a modern thing that people party at college.
No surprise. And at a sorority house too.
Yeah. But then Mrs. Mack, when she's by herself, she's like mocking him for what he was saying. And
Yeah.
she's
like,
like, what?
Responsible for the morals of every girl in this house. And she said these bras would hump the Leaning Tower of Pisa if they could get up there.
She was great. I think she was my favorite character.
Amazing. Yes.
So there was somebody attacked in town. Not just the little girl, but somebody else was attacked.
Who else?
Somebody else was raped in town. Remember they said you probably shouldn't go out.
That.
Somebody did just get raped.
I didn't even remember that part.
It's just the guy, the
Real
boyfriend
quick.
says it real quick. So there's something going on out there. Lots of crimes. And the police are useless.
So is the killer
Man.
like killing outside the house and making his way toward the house?
Apparently, because I
Yes.
mean, if he killed a little girl at the park and then he killed some girl and raped her, I don't know.
There was one theory I saw that said because he's he's regressing back to childhood, the thing that would spark something like that would be Christmas.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, sure.
The context clues from the phone calls would indicate he had a fucked up childhood. At least that's what I think.
Yeah, it appears that way.
Can you explain that a little more?
More?
Yeah.
I think he was raping his
Like the stuff that he was saying
sister.
related to.
I don't want to say
How?
any of that.
In the remake, do they say that he did that? Is that like what makes you think that, or?
The remake, it shows Agnes as his sister.
Oh, okay.
He's there too. Everything that happened to him happened in that house before it was a sorority house.
But then that's only going by whoever directed that remake. That doesn't mean
Right.
that that's what the intention was with this 1st one.
The intention with the first one was ambiguity.
Yeah.
They had no
For
intention of explaining who this killer was and didn't care. But it's just so creepy that, like, this guy's like this. You don't really need to know the details.
Don't you?
I don't know. This is the full reason why, when we reviewed this before, Cobra gave it a low score, was literally because they didn't show the killer. He didn't care about anything else that happened in the movie at all.
Wow.
And
So-
you have a completely opposite stance? Or are you somewhere in
I
between?
don't care about the killer. I just want the performances to be good and the suspense to be there in a slasher.
I have
What do you
mixed
think?
thoughts on it
Okay.
because I mean, going through a movie the whole time wondering who's the killer and then you don't find out exactly, that kind of
The fact that they were trying to convince you someone was the killer,
and then it turns out he's not.
it's unsatisfactory for them to be like, nope, you were wrong, the end.
But then I like it being more unexpected too, and I do like when you kind of like can come up with your own conclusion. So I have mixed thoughts. What do you think?
Yeah, what do you think?
I feel like I'm already reviewing it. Okay, so I like an open-ended conclusion to a movie. But I like there to be at least a little bit of information. You know, like something like you were saying about The Shining. It's like either this or that, pretty much. You know, one of the two, but you're not sure which one. You know, a couple options.
Yeah, with this
or
you're just
maybe
like,
it's this, maybe it's that.
Because at the end you are a little confused with this movie. Like, who's Billy?
And
Like,
I like a twist.
Yeah.
So I like the fact that they kind of lead you towards Peter, and the whole time I'm
Yeah.
going, no, it's not Peter. It's not
Right,
Peter.
yeah.
It's you know what I mean?
That's
like
what-
that's
Too
just
easy.
yeah.
So I like that it's a twist that it's somebody else, but
Who?
Just a
Yeah,
little
we don't
more.
even know
Just
who
a
he
little
is.
more.
Give us a clue.
Even if at the very end they would have panned over to like a picture of a family that has like a mom and a dad and a boy and a girl.
Something.
You know what I mean? Like in the attic or something. Just something to give you a little bit of a clue
I agree with
about some way to wrap it up.
I agree with you. I think that the filmmaker thought that the clues were the conversations he was having on the phone. I don't agree with that, but I think that's what he was doing. That's why they were more detailed and why he was doing several voices to try and give like a backstory for a character that we don't even know exists, which is why it doesn't work.
But even if you get, he was maybe a kid and his sister and his parents and they lived in that house, why is he killing everybody?
Right,
Everybody
yeah.
he's killing, he's also calling Agnes.
And like he must have gone through something traumatic in his childhood.
He's disassociating when he's doing it. That's why later on he starts having a temper tantrum and destroying the entire attic.
Yeah.
Because he's a little kid.
I thought he
yeah.
was having a temper tantrum because he didn't want to kill. He didn't want to kill.
So after he killed Mrs. Mack, he has a freak out.
I thought he was kind of like, I didn't want to do that, but I had to. She was coming up here.
Oh.
Yeah, that's part of it.
So do you think that he has some kind of connection to her? Like from when he was younger?
Maybe not a connection, but like it just wasn't an intended kill. You know what I mean?
But why would he be so upset about that when
I don't
he's
know.
enjoying murdering people?
I don't know that he is
like-
enjoying murdering people.
Hmm.
What I mean by disassociating is I think that he isn't even fully consciously there when he's doing it.
So-
It's just like something takes over him. Not like I'm not talking like demonic possession or something.
No,
I just
but
mean
like
like an
psychologically.
instinct. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's my. We're guessing here.
Right, yeah.
There's
'cause we
no
don't
real
know.
answers. So
Yeah, I was wondering why he had that tantrum. I mean, it definitely showed that he is like a child inside for sure, but I didn't know what he was so upset about.
I don't know if I got the child like just more like frustration and
Mm-hmm.
no.
It just seemed like a child's temper tantrum, though, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
Even like his voice, the way he was sounding, he sounded childlike, kind of.
Yeah.
they go to the police station.
Barb was drinking in the police station. It was amazing. Drinking and smoking. I loved it.
She gives the cop a fake phone number,
Yeah.
which is funny, but also is not cool because now they can't get a hold of them
Right.
when they need to. You got to remember too that I don't know what
Felton.
an exchange is.
Felton education. I don't
So
know.
like, okay, back in the olden days,
Yes,
youngin,
thank you.
an exchange would be like, my mom grew up in Penn Hills, so like the exchange would be like PE or PH, maybe something like that, and then the last 5 numbers of the phone number. Like, it would be 7 numbers, but the first 2 would be letters based on where you lived.
Jess has a boyfriend named Peter who's a crazy fucking maniac.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wrote ass.
Yeah,
Mhm.
nothing that he does in this movie is very good.
No, I did not like him.
He's a piano player, not a very good one.
No.
She's pregnant with their kid, but she does not want to have it. It's 1974, so this shit is wild.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's like, oh yeah, you better fucking tell him to fuck off. But back then, I'm sure people were like,
It's
holy
only a couple
shit.
years after abortion was legalized,
Yeah.
actually, so I was super impressed.
Yeah.
But she's very like and it was so weird. Also, I always find it weird when I hear like a guy be like, "You can't abort that
I
baby."
know.
I'm
Like, is this your body? Like,
What the
is
fuck
this
are you
really
even
your
talking
decision?
about?
Yeah.
So apparently, this convinces him, or this causes him to have a poor piano recital, which is so silly to me. He's like, first of all, he's going to school in like a castle or something, or some old conservatory, I think.
The music conservatory
Yeah.
building in at the college.
And he doesn't want to live there
And
anymore.
he'd been studying music for 8 years.
And he's
they
still...
said.
And that's what he sounds like.
Oh, that's pretty bad. I think he should give up on the
Well, he
music
does.
career.
He
He's like, I'm gonna take care of you and
have
my
no
baby
job, yeah.
with nothing.
Yeah, I don't think with that.
1974, they probably could have paid mortgage with $0.25 an hour.
Barb says that thing about the turtle.
Oh,
Holy
turtle-
shit!
The
That
turtles
was funny.
Turtles fuck for 48 hours. I'm lucky or 3 days. I'm lucky if I get 3 minutes. Bam!
How did she know this? Because she saw it. She went to the zoo. She didn't stay for the whole
She
2
got
days.
bored and
She went to
and
the
watched.
zebras?
Yeah, because they finished pretty quick. So
Amazing. Have you ever seen a giraffe? Have you ever seen a giraffe? It's like,
Actually, yeah.
That's yeah.
remember we had to look that up because we were like, that seems impossible.
Yeah, I guess that's why I looked it up, was
Yeah.
because you had told me about that.
Amazing.
We thought they just backed up to each other.
I never thought that. You maybe thought that.
But there's
and then
a scene with Santa where he says, ho, ho, holy shit, and it reminded me of, what the fuck, The Christmas Story?
Mm-hmm.
It's like he's just doing the same kind of...
You're gonna
How
shoot
does
your
he
eye out,
when Barb is like feeding drinks to the one kid. Oh my god.
Yeah, that Santa was
He's
terrible too.
schnockered.
Like he's got a kid on his lap and he's just swearing away and
Why are these kids on campus with that?
Really
plus,
was
he's not a realistic Santa at all. Like he doesn't even get like a white wig or anything. He's got this white
He's
beard.
just one of the kids. He's one of the college kids,
yeah,
right?
And Mr. Harrison, this poor guy, his daughter's missing, and he has to hang out with these people for like days and days. Phil and Barb and Mr. Harrison go to see Sergeant Nash. Nash does not put together that there are phone calls coming from this house and somebody's missing and a lot of stuff. He just doesn't... He's just like, I don't give a shit. He doesn't take missing people seriously, which nothing has changed at all.
Actually, they really didn't take missing people seriously. At some point, Mrs. Mack died.
She goes upstairs because she's getting ready to leave. She hears her cat meowing.
I wrote, they want you to think Peter did it.
Yeah, he's pissed off. He says he was sleeping in the house the whole time. There's all kinds of things that, like, kind of give away that this is taking place inside the house. Like, for instance, they go, is there another phone in the house? Yeah, but then immediately John Saxon's like, yeah, but it's a different number and nobody was calling this. Like they're just brushing it off real fast. Yeah. And then you're like, yeah, you brought that up for a reason. And then when you find out Peter's in the house, your brain starts kind of going, Peter made the phone calls from inside the house. But like you're like...
Peter came from upstairs. But
sleeping without telling anybody he was going to be there?
It was too easy. There's no way that would have made it so obvious that he was there. Mm-hmm. More calls with Agnes and Billy.
Yeah.
I'm really upset that Barb got killed with a unicorn.
I wish Barb would have lived through the whole movie, honestly. They need Jess to stay on the phone with this killer for 3 minutes?
Yeah, that technology, out of this world.
Oh my god.
What was the 70s?
Running through a warehouse to try and find the right...
terminal, I guess?
Plug, I don't know what it was.
And everything is loud everywhere.
Uh-huh.
How do you keep a perverted psychopath on the phone for 3 minutes? What conversations do you have with this guy?
Probably just feed into it.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
When Barb was talking back to him, did he hang up? Or did she hang up?
He said, I'm gonna kill you, and hung up.
Mm-hmm. He hung up. Mm-hmm. Then you probably do the opposite and be like,
oh, that's
tell me
good.
more.
That's no.
I don't know who this Agnes is, but she sounds amazing.
She's dead. We're all dead.
Really? I'd like to get into that with you. How do you feel about that?
Well, I've murdered a lot of people in this house, so...
Do you think he knew that it was important to keep the phone calls short so that they couldn't be tracked?
That could be. I mean, he was in the house and heard everything that they said, every conversation that was had in there, and even repeated some of them.
Mm-hmm. But the last phone call, he did stay on long enough for them to trace it. I think he was too in his head to really, like...
Also, the ones that he made after he killed somebody were a little bit longer, which is also something that I'm going to bring up at the end here. He liked to make his phone calls after people died. But not every time, so that theory kind of doesn't work, but I'll get to it.
I don't know that I really put that together, the phone calls after the deaths.
I didn't.
I was trying to keep track, and he was doing it after the deaths, which is why the last phone call in the movie is important.
Whose death is that after?
Peter's death.
Okay.
Not Jess's death.
That's the last phone call?
I think a lot of people think that phone call is supposed to indicate that Jess is dead, because she was left alone in the house with the killer. But I think... the killer killed Peter and knocked Jess out. Then, when they left, he called Jess to torture her about killing another person. Because some of his calls sounded like he was still murdering people, even.
Right, yeah. Sometimes it sounded like he was murdering people while he was on the phone. But that, I didn't know if was just his own voices, like he was recreating it kind of thing. Or if it really...
Yeah, I don't know.
I didn't know.
It's hard to tell.
I would have to pay more attention to exactly what he said in each phone call at each point in time.
Sometimes it sounded like he was recreating the things with Agnes. Other times it sounded like there was a real victim on the other end. So it's hard to tell. So Peter mentioned that having an abortion to him would be like the same thing as having a wart removed, right? Something like that.
He said that she was acting like that.
Yeah, she's treating it like that. So the killer calls and says,
Just like having a wart removed.
I'm with you. this isn't Peter, shut up. It is not him, but the thing is, though, it convinces Jess that it absolutely 100% is him.
Right.
Even though her and Phyllis talk about it and come to the conclusion that he was in the house during one of those phone calls. But we know there's another phone in the house, so we're supposed to think that that's not the case, but by this point, know that's not the case.
She didn't know there was another phone in the house?
They didn't know the phone calls were coming from inside.
Is this the original, like, the call's coming from inside the house?
No, that's When a Stranger Calls. So John Saxon goes to the conservatory because he's now really convinced that Peter's the killer. But Peter has smashed the piano, which this is really cool. There are musical stings in the movie. It's the sound of the piano being smashed. They really want you to think that Peter is the killer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
But again, nope. So he's now thinking that too. So now Jess thinks it, the cop thinks it. So now what happens to him at the end, everybody's just going to be like, oh good, we got him, yeah. And this is all setting up very badly for Peter. But he's a dumbass, and I kind of feel like when you're approaching somebody who's huddled in a corner with a fire poker,
I mean, they really make it seem like it's him, like when he breaks the window to get in there and everything.
Sneaking around.
I'm not allowed to go to the end yet, am I? Because that is...
I mean, are we the end?
I thought we were almost there. Where are we?
They track the call. They figure out it's coming from inside the house. And Peter's killed everybody now. Phyllis died off screen. Barb gets stabbed with a unicorn after having a nightmare, which is...
Peter's killed everybody now?
Yeah. Well, no.
Well, as everyone thinks.
Everyone thinks Peter's killed
Okay.
everybody. But the Barb thing was really depressing to me because she had a nightmare about it. So she dreamt that she was dying, tried to go back to sleep, and then was killed.
Mm-hmm.
Horrible.
But she was drunk,
Yeah.
so she probably didn't really...
Feel anything?
Well, hopefully. Hopefully she was drunk enough.
Just
that...
really upset about the unicorn.
Yeah.
I like I like unicorns.
Yeah.
I've never seen them used as a murder weapon
No,
before.
that's a first. She's running from the killer, and there's a really tense scene where he's trying to break down the door and just screaming and yelling.
Yeah.
She makes her way down there, and he goes away. The killer goes away, and somebody's outside, and it's Peter. Now, here's the thing. This really bothers me. Peter's yelling, Jess, are you in there? So he doesn't know that she's down in the basement, right?
Well, he shouldn't, since he's not really the one that chased her.
And she's not answering.
Well, yeah, because she thinks he's the killer, so she doesn't...
why in the fuck does he kick in the window?
I know, that's why it seemed so much like he really was the killer, because the killer was the only one that knew where she was.
So if you're Jess and you see that, you absolutely hit him with a fire poker.
Yeah.
I just don't think that's what's happened. I don't think that happened.
What do you mean?
I think he went down.
You think that they want you to think that Jess killed Peter?
Yes.
Do you think that Jess killed Peter?
Well, I wasn't sure, because I thought either Jess killed Peter or the real killer killed Peter. So I wasn't sure, because it doesn't explain it, so we don't know for sure.
We just see her passed out and him dead.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's what that phone call is supposed to signify. I don't think it's supposed to signify that he killed Jess and then called, because there's no one left to call. I think he killed Peter. Jess was knocked out, left upstairs. They also make mention, too, because this is important. It seems a little off that they didn't check the attic yet.
Right.
But they do make mention that their coroner's already filled and the state police are coming. So they are going to get up there. They're not just going to leave it. But they decide to leave Jess alone in the house because they're so convinced that Peter was the killer without, again, any evidence. Take her to the hospital.
Well, yeah.
Mm-hmm. My older son saw the end of it, quite upset that they left a person at the crime scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's not realistic. I don't think they would have done that.
That's the 70s, though, man.
Well, they did leave one cop outside.
Oh, right, he's just standing out there.
And
But why in the world did they not have an ambulance there taking her to the hospital?
None of it makes sense.
Well, here's the other thing. They never found those two bodies. So
Yeah.
they don't know that Claire is necessarily dead.
Yeah, Claire's dad's still there, still looking for her.
Mrs. Mack, as far as they know, just went to her sister's.
Yeah.
So what are they thinking?
That's the thing, like, if they didn't think it was Peter, they would definitely be checking the entire house and
Right.
everyone would be out of there. But they're so convinced that it's Peter.
But what did he
since
do exactly? What are they saying he did? Because
he killed these people, and now he's dead because he attacked his
killed the
girlfriend.
little girl and the
all of them. Yeah.
and the rapist. But that's the only other two they know are dead. Nobody else, or did they find Phil and Barb? She
found
Barb.
Phil and Barb.
That's right. Okay.
And so they only have enough thing at their corner for 4 dead bodies, apparently. What, first time? First time in a slasher movie? So, yeah, that's my theory. I don't know what you guys think. What's your theory? Do you think that Jess is dead? Do you think that...
I mean, I didn't think she was dead, but I don't know, because, like, that doesn't make any sense that they would just leave her there if she's not dead.
Right.
So, I don't know.
I think she will be dead.
Well, yeah, because they neglected to take her to the hospital.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he seems to just be killing everybody that he gets hands on in the house.
Yeah.
I really like this movie. I think the acting is really good. I think the ambiguity is not the best thing in the world, though. But from an execution standpoint, it was suspenseful the second time watching it. One of the better, if not the best, horror Christmas movie. And for slasher conventions, yeah, I'm going to give it a 6. I would recommend watching it. Don't watch the remake, though. Like, none of the questions that they answer are satisfactory, and if I had to take the answers that they give or the ambiguity of this movie, I'd take the ambiguity. The answers aren't good.
I'm kind of right on the fence about this, because there were some comedic moments, there were some really cool characters. Kind of upset when some of them got killed, but like I was saying before, like the complete lack of explanation of anything, just, I don't know. Like I said, I like a little bit of a, like ambiguity, but when it's just that, just absolutely no explanation whatsoever, you don't even see the killer's face or anything about him. Like 65% of heterosexual women, I was left unsatisfied.
Nice!
I'll give it a 5. 5? Give it a 5. I'm right in the middle there. Kind of good, kind of eh. I did not like the ending, but other than that, yeah.
All right, Lindsay?
Yeah, I have some similar thoughts, because, I mean, I, again, have, like, mixed thoughts about the ambiguity of it. Like, I like it in a way, and in a way, it'd be nice to have some sort of explanation, because I'm still like, I don't really know who Billy is. I'd like to have some idea. I liked the comedy parts of it. It was, like, really funny at times, definitely, and I liked the setting of like being in a sorority house at Christmas time. That was unique, kind of, and there was good acting, definitely. I like the suspense and everything, but yeah, it wasn't everything it could have been, I think. So yeah. I mean, I'm gonna give it a 6.5 though, because I liked the movie. I would definitely watch it again.
So they also had a remake in 2018 that was criticized for being too feminist. I think this movie is actually very feminist.
It is, yeah.
Feminist,
like, I don't think people realized how similar the tones are for both of them. So,
especially for the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is way ahead of its time. It's tough because with horror, whenever there's a killer who's just like murdering people in these franchises, it's the same thing with everything in horror, but with this particular issue, it's explain why this killer's doing this, this, and this. And then a filmmaker comes along and goes, I'll give it my best shot. And they try, and the people are like, why the hell did they do that? Why can't he just be walking around? Isn't the mystery the important part? What do you want? What do you want?
Everybody wants something different.
Yeah.
You can't please everyone.
Yeah, which, by the way, is why I'm glad that we are not super negative on this show. We've tried to look for the positive things, whereas previously, in my last review of this, we set out with a negative attitude to find things that were wrong with the movie and would give it a low score.
Do you remember what you rated it before?
3.
Wow.
I was like, I don't give a shit who Billy is. I'm never going to find out anyway.
Oh, to talk to that, John.
We were drinking a bottle. It was like the funniest thing. Two dudes up in the attic drinking a bottle of wine talking about Black Christmas and arguing over
in the attic.
We were in Lambert's attic.
Oh.
We were in Lambert's attic.
That is appropriate.
Yeah, and we were arguing over if you want to get a hold of us, facebook.com/justanotherhorrorpodcast. We are on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Podbean, and Spotify. You can email the show at justahorrorpodcast@gmail.com.
Instagram is just a horror pod.
Twitter, for an undetermined amount of time,
We still have a Twitter?
Just horror pod.
We kind of still have it, but you don't post on it anymore.
Sorry, I'm busy. I have lots of things to do. Thrill me.
Thank you.